Beholder. It's hard to forget your first encounter with a beholder. A floating orb of flesh with one central, unblinking eye and 10 eye stalks bristling with death. Each stalk can fire a different magical ray, charm, disintegrate, paralyze, you name it. Beholders are among the most feared aberrations in Dungeons and Dragons, not just for their powers, but for their minds. These creatures are hyper-intelligent, insanely paranoid, and utterly convinced of their own perfection. And that paranoia, it's not just about adventurers sneaking up on them. It extends to other beholders. No two are exactly alike, and even the smallest variation in appearance is enough for one beholder to view another as a mutant deserving of extermination. This leads most beholders to live in complete isolation. They create vertical layers filled with traps and constantly plot and prepare, spinning webs of schemes with hundreds of contingency plans. Elminster once said human politics are like baby games compared to a beholder's schemes, and he wasn't exaggerating. There are many beholder variants out there, such as hive mothers and death tyrants, and even some entirely unique subspecies called beholderkin, like spectators and overseers. Most of these are spawned from the beholder's own dreams, which can manifest new bizarre versions of themselves. In combat, they can be truly terrifying foes. Their eye stalks and their sharp teeth are dangerous, but it's their central eye that makes them truly special. It generates an anti-magic cone that shuts down spells and magic items, making them a nightmare for any adventurer who relies on those tools. If they sense they're losing, they'll flee, often into a hidden shaft or a trapline tunnel, where they can recover and strike again later. So when you're dealing with the beholder, you're not just fighting a monster, you're stepping into the lair of a powerful and obsessive creature with a dozen ways to kill you and a backup plan for each. Every encounter is different, and every mistake could be your last. Mind Flayer. There's something uniquely terrifying about a Mind Flayer. It's not just the tentacled face or the cold, calculating stare. It's the knowledge that your own thoughts aren't safe. Also known as illithids, these alien creatures are masters of psionics. They can stun a room full of people with a thought, dominate minds, and pull memories straight from your head. But their signature move is far worse. They paralyze their victims and consume their brains while they're still alive. Mind Flayers come from the far realm, a plane so alien it doesn't follow the normal rules of reality. Long ago, they ruled a vast empire that stretched across dimensions, enslaving entire species. That empire eventually fell, but the illithids survived, scattered across the multiverse in hidden colonies, each one ruled by a massive psychic entity called an Elder Brain. The Elder Brain links the entire colony in a single hive mind. Every Mind Flayer is connected to it, and every one of them is created through a horrific process called ceremorphosis. A tadpole is inserted into a humanoid host, burrows into the brain, and slowly transforms the body into a full-grown Mind Flayer, erasing the host's personality and replacing it with something alien. To a Mind Flayer, other beings are little more than tools, brains to eat, bodies to hijack, or pawns in a much larger plan. Most operate in secret, manipulating events from the shadows, and if one appears in the open, it's either part of something much bigger, or it's already too late. Some illithids manage to break free of their Elder Brain's control. These rogue Mind Flayers are rare and unpredictable. A few have even aligned with good, but most become even more dangerous. They are extremely capable in combat. They can unleash a blast of psionic energy that stuns an entire party, then walk up and tear a brain out in seconds. If they drag you back to the colony, you're either food or the next host for a new illithid. Tarrasque. When people think of the most powerful monster in Dungeons and Dragons, this is a name that always comes up. The Tarrasque is a towering, near unstoppable force tied directly to the prime material plane. It stands over 50 feet tall, and it's covered in thick armored plates, with a massive tail, spiked limbs, and a pair of curved horns. Despite its size, it can burrow, climb, and move with a speed that defies its bulk, making escape difficult and survival even more so. Its defenses are what make it truly legendary. The Tarrasque shrugs off fire, poison, and disease as if they were nothing. Most spells barely scratch it, and illusions or mind-affecting magic are completely useless. Even blinding it has no effect, as it doesn't rely on sight the way mortals do. Some scholars suspect it's even immune to psionics, though anyone who's tried to prove that hasn't lived to publish the results. Unlike most other monsters of its scale, the Tarrasque has a very simple mind. It doesn't hate what it destroys. It simply acts on instinct, devouring everything in its path before disappearing once more into the depths of the world. Some believe it slumbers at the planet's core, waking only when disturbed or when some ancient cycle demands its return. Its presence is so rare that many dismiss it as myth, until the ground splits open and it emerges. The creature's origin is still debated. Supposedly, only one Tarrasque exists, and some stories claim it was created by the Primordials during the Dawn War, built to unmake the gods' order. Others suggest it came from beyond Toril, perhaps from a distant world like Falx, where beasts of similar form exist in greater numbers. Despite its power, it isn't invincible. Ancient legends speak of methods to deceive or redirect it, luring it into another plane and sealing it away. But such solutions are desperate, dangerous, and barely within the reach of even the most powerful spellcasters. Lich. A lich is what happens when a powerful wizard, or sometimes a cleric, warlock, or sorcerer, decides that mortality is a nuisance. Through a dark and deliberate ritual, they tear their soul from their body and lock it inside a magical container called a phylactery. As long as that phylactery remains intact, they cannot truly die. Leeches are undead, but they retain their intelligence, magical ability, and the full ambition they had in life. In fact, that ambition usually grows worse with time. Physically, they look like walking corpses. Their eyes glow with a green or red glimmer, and their voice can bypass speech altogether, projected like a spell cast directly into your mind. Most of them go into seclusion, using centuries of undeath to unravel arcane secrets or shape long-term plans. They don't need food, rest, or company, just time, and they have plenty of it. Their lairs are often ancient ruins, death-filled crypts, or arcane fortresses riddled with undead servants and magical traps. Leeches are among the most powerful spellcasters in existence. Many of them invent spells entirely unique to their twisted minds, and when combat begins, they are extremely prepared. A lich will open with wide-area devastation, summon allies, teleport constantly, and use curses and illusions to break apart any party that challenges them. You can't poison them or paralyze them, and most mental magic simply doesn't work. Even if you destroy the lich's body, it'll reform in just a few days unless you find and destroy its phylactery. And believe me, if you're inside a lich's lair, the phylactery isn't just hidden, it's protected by every nightmare the lich could think of over the last few hundred years. Red Dragon. There is no dragon more iconic or more feared than the Red One, towering, arrogant, and utterly destructive. Red dragons see themselves as the rightful rulers of all creation, and they behave accordingly. They're massive muscular creatures with crimson scales as hard as steel, and a wingspan that can blot out the sun. But it's not their physical strength alone that makes them terrifying. It's their personality. As red dragons are extremely intelligent creatures, their hunger for gold isn't just about greed, it's about dominance. They hoard treasure like a tyrant marking territory, building vast lairs buried deep within volcanic mountains or scorched wastelands. And when they sleep, it's often directly on their hoard, as if daring anyone to take even a single coin. Their breath is a cone of pure fire, capable of reducing a village to ash in seconds. And unlike some other dragons, Reds love a direct fight. They'll roar into battle from above, breathing flame before crashing into the fray with their claws and jaws. And if a red dragon retreats, It's not out of fear. It's because it's planning something worse. Some have ruled kingdoms, enslaved cities, or carved out domains so feared that even demons avoid them. Others have been hunted by adventurers seeking fame or revenge, but few live to tell the tale, because if a red dragon feels even slightly disrespected, it'll burn your castle, your army, and your legacy just to prove a point. Even among other dragons, reds don't see equals, only rivals or obstacles. They look down on blues for being schemers, whites for being beasts, and even gold dragons for wasting their strength on mercy. If a red encounters another dragon in its territory, the outcome is usually violent. Mimic. One of the oldest tricks in the Dungeon Master's book, and one of the most effective. Mimics are shape-shifting predators that disguise themselves as inanimate objects to lure prey. Most commonly, they take the form of treasure chests, doors, or furniture, anything a curious adventurer might touch, but in truth, they can take the shape of almost anything, as long as it matches their volume. Their skin changes color and texture to mimic stone, wood, or metal, with uncanny precision, making them nearly impossible to spot until it's too late. The moment someone gets close, the trap is sprung. Mimics secrete a powerful adhesive across their body, binding their victim in place while they lash out with their jaws and pseudopods. The glue is strong enough to hold the grown fighter in place and doesn't wear off for nearly a minute, even after the mimic dies. They don't hunt out of malice, they simply want to eat. Most mimics are solitary creatures hiding in their lairs and feeding on whatever wanders too close. A single humanoid can feed one for weeks, and once it's full, it'll return to its still disguise and wait patiently for the next meal. Some rare types are intelligent enough to speak, reason, or even strike deals. These mimics might offer information or safe passage in exchange for food, and some have even lived among other dungeon dwellers in a kind of uneasy truce. Even rarer are specialized breeds like book mimics, created by scholars to guard dangerous tomes. All that matters is this: if you're in a dungeon and see something that looks too inviting, consider approaching it with extreme caution. Goblins. An absolute classic encountered in any adventure. Goblins are small, vicious humanoids, standing just over 3 feet tall. They have leathery skin that comes in shades of red, orange, yellow, or green. Their wide mouths are full of sharp little fangs, and their eyes glow with mischief or malice, depending on the day. They live in large underground lairs near the surface, packed shoulder to shoulder, in squalid tunnels that stink of smoke and filth. They survive through cunning, numbers, and pragmatism. Most goblins are taught from birth that trust is a weakness. Betray before you're betrayed, strike before you're struck, and never play fair. As a result, goblin tribes are ruled by whoever is the strongest, or just smart enough to stab their rivals in the back. In combat, goblins rely on ambushes and dirty tricks. If a lone adventurer wanders into goblin territory, expect traps, flanks, and a lot of stabbing in the dark. And if the odds turn against them, they'll flee without hesitation. Cowardice isn't shameful in goblin society, it's survival. They wield crude weapons, such as slings, spears, and short swords. Most goblins are barely trained, but some manage to rise as battle leaders or booyahs, strange spellcasters with a taste for fire and chaos. Not all goblins are monsters. Some have rejected their brutal culture, becoming adventurers, merchants, or even heroes. But it's a hard path. Their temper, greed, and reputation follow them everywhere, and few other races are willing to give them a second chance. And while goblins might squabble with everyone else, they do have one true ally, the warg. These massive wolves are sometimes raised from birth to fight beside goblins or carry them into battle. The sight of a goblin warband mounted on snarling wargs is enough to send many villagers packing. Owlbear. We conclude with one of the most recognizable and bizarre monsters of Dungeons and Dragons. A hulking beast with the body of a bear and the head of a giant owl, looking like something from a nightmare taxidermist's collection. And in many ways, That's not far from the truth. Owlbears are savage, territorial predators that roam deep forests, ancient ruins, and mountain caves. They're not subtle hunters, and when they attack, they charge with a powerful screech, mauling their prey with claws as long as swords and a beak, strong enough to crack bone and steel. Despite their size and fury, they're deceptively fast. Nobody's entirely sure where owlbears came from. Some claim they were the result of a wizard's failed experiment, an attempt to blend owl and bear for the ultimate predator. Others believe they're a natural species that evolved in some forgotten land. Either way, they've spread across the world, thriving in the wildest parts of it. They mate once a year, usually in spring, and raise their cubs in dens. A mother owlbear is fiercely protective and even more aggressive than usual. Hunters who come across a den often don't live long enough to realize the mistake. While they don't have language or culture, owlbears do have habits. They leave claw marks on trees to mark territory and are known to return to the same hunting paths again and again. Some have even been tamed, barely, by druids, monstrous warbands, or mad wizards, though the results tend to be unpredictable. They're not intelligent in the way a dragon or a mind flayer is, but they're no simple beast either. They recognize patterns, remember threats, and know how to ambush their prey efficiently. And this concludes our video for today. If you've enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.